So you just found out that you're pregnant, and the very first thought that pops up in your mind is, what am I allowed to eat and what can I not eat? So very quick breakdown, very easy to remember, and you will also find a link below in the description that you can download if you want to. But what can I eat? What can I not eat? Let's start with what is allowed. So first of all, obviously water is allowed. The problem is that the recommended amount of water is 1 to 2 liters a day. For some of you, that's possible. For others, it's not so easy because they might be nauseous or they might just not feel like water. So just try and get as close as possible to 2 liters as you can. But the bottom line is, it's important to stay hydrated. When you're pregnant, your blood volume increases. And in order to maintain this volume, it is good to stay hydrated because you will just feel fatigued when you don't drink enough, and baby will be taking all of your reserves and your energy and anything extra. And it's important to keep up with your water intake to stay hydrated. If you are suffering from severe nausea and vomiting, it is much more difficult to stay hydrated, but it's even more important because you're losing a lot of fluid. If you find that you're struggling to take water in or just keep water in, make sure that you increase your fiber intake and perhaps use a stool softener just to make sure that you don't get constipated. The next one is eggs. So this is a good and a bad one. So well-cooked eggs, as in no yellow runny yolk, that is fine. Eggs are very rich in protein and also vitamin D. So it's really packed with nutrients, but make sure that your eggs are properly boiled or cooked. A great go-to snack is bananas, rich in calcium, and it's got natural sugar, so it's a very nice like on-the-go snack. Then greens, specifically like leafy greens, your kale, spinach, broccoli, they are considered superfoods and they are very rich in iron. And as you might already know, anemia is very common in pregnancy because your iron reserves get depleted, and your green leafy kind of vegetables, they replace that kind of iron, and they're also very high in vitamin K, which is very important for your iron production in your body. And the good thing about this is that normally iron supplements can leave you constipated, whereas greeny leaves, they are rich in iron, but they help for constipation. So it's like a double whammy. You get your iron supplementation, but you don't get constipated. Then the next one is nuts. Or even nut butters. Just check the labels that it's not too high in added sugar or salt. Something like peanuts is fine as long as you don't have any allergies. And the belief that if you expose the baby to allergens during pregnancy, that it might affect them later on has not been proven yet, so you can safely eat some nuts. Next one, high fiber. So something like cereals or whole grain bread. It's got a low GI and it makes you feel fuller for longer, and it will also help with constipation, granted that you keep up with your water intake. This one you might be a little bit unsure of, but it's avocados. They are actually really rich in proteins and fats, and it's a very healthy snack. You can have 1, 2 a day if you really feel like it. It's a really healthy go-to snack. And then your bean type food like lentils and beans and chickpeas, those are really good. They're high in protein. They make you feel fuller for much longer, and you don't have to eat a big amount to feel full. Then your omega-3s, which is your fish oil, so you find them in salmon and other seafoods. Granted that your seafood is properly cooked, and we'll get to that in a moment. Or you can get supplements. Very often your multivitamins will contain omega-3s. It's really healthy for you and the baby. So generally you can eat most foods in pregnancy. It's always important to remember anything that is too much can be harmful. Too much of a good thing can be bad. So just in moderation, don't overdo one food type. Just make sure that you have kind of a balance. So now, what can you not eat? Let's start with the fish because we ended with the fish. So raw or uncooked fish is not recommended. Specifically something like sushi. The question we often get is, can I have sushi in pregnancy? Well, it's a yes and a no question. So yes, you can absolutely have sushi if it's an avocado and cucumber sushi, or if it's cooked meat or cooked fish like crab sticks or prawns. Those are cooked fish. That is okay to have. When you talk about tuna or salmon, that's normally not cooked. That is something that is considered not safe in pregnancy because of harmful bacteria that can grow in raw or uncooked food, which can then either affect you or the baby or both of you. The all-time favorite, cheese. I just love cheese, but the one thing that you have to give up when you're pregnant is soft cheeses. And if I say soft, it means unpasteurized. So if you see a label that says pasteurized, you're good to go. If it doesn't show that, you know this cheese hasn't been treated. Examples would include like your soft blue cheeses or mold ripened cheese, feta cheese, unfortunately, because feta is really nice. It's something like your brie or camembert, like those typical soft cheeses that you would get with wine pairings. They're not really good, but I think you'll be okay because alcohol is on the list as well. So cheese and wine pairings might be out for a couple of months for you. What is also considered safe with fish is shellfish when it is cooked. So when you can see the skin coming off, like cracking off, then you know it is fully cooked. You can have that. You can have, for instance, cooked tuna, but what you need to avoid is fish that are high in mercury. Tuna, no more than like 2 servings a week. Your swordfish, shark, if that's something that you eat in your region, merlin, those type of fish, very high in mercury. So these are considered not safe in pregnancy. The next one is raw meat or uncooked meat, even cured meat. Basically, you shouldn't see blood coming out. Then you know your meat is properly cooked. If it's like a cold meat like ham and salami, those are typically not cooked, they're cured, and they can contain harmful bacteria. So one way of getting them safer is to, if you buy them, to freeze them for 4 to 5 days, because most parasites or bacteria will die if they're frozen for an extended period of time. If you want to cook them or fry them, it's an even better option, because then you know you basically killed everything. Like the moment you reach steam level of cooked for your food, you know anything that could be harmful is probably already dead. This one is an interesting one, and it is liver. So lots of people like to eat liver or liver pate. Both of those are not recommended because liver contains high levels of vitamin A, and it can be harmful to you and the baby. And when I say harmful, when it comes to food, harmful normally means the risk of infection, premature birth, miscarriage, defects or deformities and things like that. As I've mentioned before, with eggs, no runny eggs. So no yellow sunny side up eggs, just cooked eggs. And then there's a weird one that is really healthy for you if taken at a certain time, and really harmful if taken at the wrong time. And this is papaya. So a ripe papaya has got a lot of health benefits for mom. An unripe papaya is actually considered really unsafe to eat in pregnancy, as it is associated with premature labor. Then milk, you want to see pasteurized or you want to see UHT, no fresh milk. Even ice cream, if it's soft serve, it has to be pasteurized. Then you know harmful substances eliminated. Avoid artificial sweeteners. Alcohol is the obvious one. Avoid any alcohol in pregnancy. The amount of alcohol needed to actually cause problems in pregnancy has not been established, because no one is going to conduct a study to feed pregnant women alcohol and see at what point does it become dangerous. So it is better in that case to just not consume any alcohol. Avoid high amounts of salt. Normal salt is perfectly fine, but typically takeaway foods like KFC, McDonald's, they're very high in salt. So if you do eat, just in moderation. If you can, avoid anything that is too high in salt, especially if you have blood pressure issues or you've been diagnosed with preeclampsia. And then I left the best one for last, coffee. So can you have coffee? And the simple answer is yes, you can have coffee, but again, in moderation. So the amount that is considered safe in pregnancy and in breastfeeding, by the way, is about 200 milligrams of caffeine a day. That amounts to about 1 to 2 cups of coffee. So 1 cup of coffee is about 100 milligrams of caffeine. Just bear in mind, certain teas are also very high, or sometimes higher than coffee, in caffeine. Chocolate can contain caffeine. So just in moderation. If you want to be safe and you really like your coffee and you have 5 or 6 cups of coffee a day, then rather switch to decaf. If you love your tea, just make sure whatever you take, it's not higher in caffeine than it would be in a coffee. But rest assured that you can have coffee if at any point in time it makes you feel unwell or you get palpitations from the caffeine. Rather just tone it down or rather switch to decaf. And that's it. If you keep these lists in mind, for the most part, you can eat whatever you want. It's just a matter of being mindful about what you're taking in and knowing where the risks are to avoid those foods.